Dave Burgess, Apollyon County. You ever heard of him? How about this? Reno Dave from the Reno Hells Angels. As the president of the Reno Charter of the Hells Angels, Reno Dave was one of the most loved Hells Angels, at least in northern Nevada, but on the west coast of the United States. Notoriously, he was also the owner of a bop house. Known for attending every run he could go to, Reno Dave was known to be everywhere taking pictures with his camera of anything and everything in his way. Then July 2007 comes along, and everybody's view of Dave, Reno Dave, well, it became blurred. See, Reno Dave got himself arrested. What he was arrested for left everybody saying, did Dave do this? Did the feds set him up? Well, I have all that and much more. This is who I was, but it's definitely not who I am. Welcome to Vegas Profile Stories. Let's get it. Ewe.
This is it.
This is it. We talks about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, what's going on, dog?
What's up, brother? DA. Last time we were talking, we started to talk about Rob from Ventura.
And other places amongst the world.
Betty!
And I ain't never been no coward or needed people to fight my battles.
But his stepdad does. He comes out, a cup of coffee, when you're just all out. You can't hear nothing. Put your wiener away!
Come to Chicago and meet me by the Museum of Science and Industry. I'll pick you up. We'll go get a fried steak sandwich, and then I'll show you my hog, all right?
Damn, he said meet me at the Museum of Science and Industry. Damn, that's the best call out I've ever heard.
May 2007, Winnemucca, Nevada. Reno Dave, the president of the Reno Charter of the Hells Angels, is in Winnemucca, Nevada at the Runnemucca Run. Accompanying Dave in his motorhome, which they call the War Wagon, is one of Dave's club brother's wives, her daughter, RC, and a couple of RC's friends. Everything's going great for the 15-year member of the Hells Angels. July 24th, 2007, in a restaurant parking lot in Evanston, Indiana. After sitting in on a briefing about it, a Wyoming state trooper is sitting in a parking lot looking across the street into another parking lot at the motorhome that he has been briefed on to be on the lookout for. That motorhome? The War Wagon, owned by Reno Dave Burgess. The trooper sees that the War Wagon is now towing a trailer and it has expired registration. Now this trooper, he knows that he can't just pull up and give them a ticket. It's private property, they're in a parking lot. So he just waits. He waits for them to get back on the road. Eventually, the War Wagon does just that. It jumps on the road, then onto the I-80 interstate, and they're heading to Arkansas for the national run. The state trooper follows. Knowing he was going to be pulling over the War Wagon, the state trooper had already taken the liberty to call ahead for a canine to show up when he pulls them over. Now, if you ask me, that's faulty. Calling ahead for a canine to do a free air sniff on a vehicle you know you're going to be pulling over for a non-moving violation, that's weak. It shouldn't be allowed, but he did. The trooper pulls them over. He states, I was pulling them over to issue them a citation for the trailer registration being expired. Now, Shane, another Hells Angel, is the one driving, and the trooper says that when he pulls Shane out of the front seat, of course, he smells, well, it's a bit skunky. What a surprise. Next step, they pull everybody out. Reno Dave tells them he owns the motorhome. Of course, this is when the canine shows up. They run that canine around the War Wagon, and wouldn't you know it, he got a positive alert. They hold Dave, they hold Shane, while they do a 30-minute search inside of this motorhome. After that half hour, they come out with a little under an ounce of that Colombian marching powder and a little over an ounce of some Bud Bundy. Dave and Shane, of course, are arrested for the party favors. The motorhome is seized and the cops put in to the local magistrate for a search warrant. After towing the war wagon to the police department station or whatever, where they got the little bays that they pull the vehicles into to search further, they take the war wagon there and they get to work. They look everywhere. In the bedroom area of the war wagon, they find a laptop and a flash drive. In between the cushions on the couch, they find yet another flash drive. Now, the warrant obtained by the state troopers specified that they could look in the laptop and they could look in the flash drives for any evidence that linked to the trafficking or transportation or sales of illicit street medicine. This is where things get weird. The state troopers, they don't search at all. What they do is they send the laptop and the flash drives all the way to Cheyenne, Wyoming from Evanston to the Crimes Against Little Ones Task Force. Now, this is a federally funded state agency. Now, in Vegas, we know about that because we had the Nasty Boys and Rope. These are all federally funded state agencies, and they are terrorists, really. July 28th, 2007. The laptop and the 2 flash drives land in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and they go to the Crimes Against Youngsters Task Force to search for street meds. Now, the search warrant was issued on July 20th, and it had an expiration on it, basically, of 10 days. They had 10 days to execute the search of the motorhome, of anything that they found in the motorhome, i.e. if it was a briefcase or, in this case, a laptop and flash drives. They have 10 days. September 6, 2007, Cheyenne, Wyoming. 44 days. That's 34 days over the expiration of the warrant. Agents for this task force finally begin to search the laptop and the flash drives. The agents begin to search with Reno Dave Burgess's personal laptop, which was found in the bedroom area of the war wagon. They find absolutely zero evidence of any type of criminal activity on the laptop whatsoever. It's completely clean. And then the agents copy and then start to preview the pictures on the first flash drive. The agent sees a picture that catches his attention. Then another. Then another. This is when the agent claims that he immediately stands up, shuts down the program, goes to another agent, and together they put in a request for a new search warrant for new crimes that they believe they have found on these flash drives. The new warrant specifically calls for the search of the hard drives for evidence of CP, Jared from Subway type of activity. The judge signs the warrant. On the first hard drive, they find some 30,000 of the most disgusting pictures imaginable. On the second hard drive, they find what is quoted as tens of thousands, a complete total of around 58,000 disgusting photos between the 2 hard drives. This is when the feds go to Reno. They immediately raid Dave's house, arrest him on the new charges. Those charges? Possessing and transporting 50,000 of the most disgusting and vile photos across state lines. At the time, they called it the largest bust of Jared from Subway type photos in United States history. The state of Wyoming immediately drops the charges that they had them on from the original bust from when they were pulled over in July of 2007. They said that they could just pick him up later if the feds don't get him on this. Dave was given a public defender, and at best he was incompetent, and at worst, well, I'm not saying he's special needs, but I'm saying if you checked his pockets, you might find a chicken nugget. Dave, in pretrial motions, hits them with, well, the search was well outside of the scope of illicit street medicine activity, that you guys went in and found something completely different that you weren't in the warrant looking for. Now, the judge immediately shut that down because he says that the agents acted in good faith and they stopped the search and got a new search warrant for the photos and the charges once they saw the first few. Then Dave fought back and says, you have no way of saying that I knowingly possessed or even knew about the photos or owned the flash drives. That's when the prosecutor dropped a bombshell on Dave's defense. They pulled up 6 to 9 photos that they found on the flash drives of RC, and they were very revealing photos. Dave's club brother's daughter, who was at Runamukka with her mother and Reno Dave just a month before he was arrested. Now there's photos on the flash drive of her in various stages of undress, and it's not looking good. Through pretrial motions, Dave was actually able to squash the jury being able to see any of the photos of RC. The judge threw those out. Dave had a two-prong offense, basically. Proved that I possessed or owned these photos. Now they can't link him through the RC photos. And Dave also says, hey, I was set up by the feds. Now, why would the feds set Dave up? Well, he's a 15-year president of the Reno Hells Angels. He's worth millions of dollars due to his family business, the Old Bridge Ranch, which is a bop house in northern Nevada in Story County. He owns it. And a 304 house is a good thing financially, I would expect. So they had plenty of reason to go after Dave. Dave claims that his hard drive was in his home and was stolen 4 days before it turned up in the search at the police department in Evanston, Wyoming. April 2008, federal courthouse in Wyoming. Less than a year after being arrested, Dave's trial starts. Prosecutors have narrowed down and are only allowed to use less than a handful of all of the photos found in this trial. The judge has basically wrangled them to between 2 and 4 photos that they're actually allowed to show the jury, and none of them can be RC. This is when Dave's attorney absolutely destroys Dave's case. Dave's attorney calls RC's mother to the stand as a character witness for Dave, and to say that her kids have been around Dave and Dave isn't like this. The prosecutors immediately see their opportunity. See, the judge had shut the door on them being able to bring in the pictures of RC. But now Dave's attorney had just opened the window and let them in. Because now, to rebut her direct testimony, the prosecutors were allowed to show the pictures of RC to the jury. See, Dave's attorney put her up on the stand, and because of that, now the photos of RC are in. The defense attorney just sank the case. Then, RC's friend, and you got to remember, they're still youngsters. RC's friend takes the stand and said she's the one who took the pictures. Dave wasn't there. They got Dave's camera, and her friend took the pictures in Winnemucca in the hotel room. Dave was never involved in any of the picture taking. This was said in front of the jury. That didn't matter, because now that takes off the table that the feds set Dave up, because the feds didn't put the pictures of RC on the flash drives. And now somebody is actually laying claim to doing that. And because the friend laid claim to doing that, it dive bombs. The feds set me up. Dave sunk. Now the prosecutors could actually pinpoint that the pictures were taken by somebody, not the feds. They were taken with Dave's camera, put onto the flash drives by somebody around Dave. Now, to say that he knowingly owned or possessed those photos becomes a moot point, because ignorance is not a good defense. You cannot claim ignorance. You had possession of, when you cross state lines, photos that were taken on your camera of RC. You can't get around it. Whether or not Dave knew, well, that's up for debate. The fact is, now someone has testified to putting those pictures on the camera. That means the feds did it. Now, one of the bigger problems with the RC photos being allowed in to the jury's eyes is on one of the hard drives, there was text superimposed and added over the photos of RC. One of the photos said Uncle Dave's little princess. Another one says, I think this is my favorite photo in all of my collection. The trial lasted all of 4 days. The jury quickly came back with a guilty verdict. After the conviction, the Hells Angels, well, they turned their back on Dave. He was now convicted of Jared from Subway type charges. Dave was found guilty on 2 charges. One of them transporting those photos and the other one possessing those photos. The sentencing guidelines, well, they range between 5 to 30 years in federal prison, depending on how the judge decides he wants to play this, and up to $500,000 in fines also. Dave's attorneys ask for the bottom end of that. Of course they do. Less than 10 years. The prosecutors asked for the absolute minimum to be 17 and a half years. At sentencing, Judge Johnson, the presiding judge over this case, says there's absolutely no evidence to support Dave's theory that he was set up by the government in this case. Now, Judge Johnson also said that Dave being the president of the Reno Hells Angels or an owner of a bop house had nothing to do with the sentence that he was going to be imposing. Reno Dave was given 15 years for transporting the photos and another 10 years for possessing the photos. But the judge ran them concurrent, meaning he's basically doing a 15-year sentence in federal prison. The judge also hits him with 10 years of supervised release after he's paroled, $20,000 in fines instead of 500 G's, and a lifetime subscription to the Jared from Subway list. May 9th, 2008, Story County, Nevada, in northern Nevada. The Story County Bop House Licensing Board, and yes, you heard that right, they actually have a board for Bop House licensing in Nevada. The Bop House Board, they suspend Dave Burgess's business license June 6, 2008. Dave appeals his suspension from the Bop House Licensing Board, and not only do they affirm it, but now they move to revoke completely Dave's license to run his bop house. Reno Dave has just lost his income. Now, the board is made up of 3 county commissioners and the Story County Sheriff, and they said, how can we suspend a license for 15 years? Because that's how long Dave's going to be away. 5 years after being convicted. Dave Burgess has hired legendary federal civil rights attorney J. Tony Serra out of San Francisco. Serra immediately moves to look at the evidence that they had collected against Dave Burgess. By luck of the draw, the rotation happened to be that the judge that would be hearing the evidentiary hearing, say that 10 times fast, Jesus, that one got me. The judge that was picked by luck of the draw to pull this case and hear the evidentiary hearing is none other than, well, you guessed it, the presiding judge over Dave's original case and sentencing judge, Judge Alan Johnson. The judge kept it really sweet and short in this hearing, or this motion for a hearing. He said, accordingly, no evidentiary hearing is needed. And with that, shot down the defense team, the new defense team for Dave, to be able to look into these hard drives themselves, because nobody forensically has looked into these hard drives from the defendant's side. Maybe that's something that his attorney in the original case should have done, but he didn't. He was, off talking about dinosaurs and robots or something. I don't know. Star Wars. So basically, the judge just shot down the new attorneys from being able to look into the hard drives, into the evidence that has Dave there, so that he can try to appeal. This is important, because if you forensically break down these flash drives, you'll be able to tell a lot of things. The most important would be how and when those pictures made it onto that hard drive. Everything is traceable. Well, you would think. Conveniently, shortly after this hearing, both of the flash drives and the copies of both of the flash drives were ordered by the judge to be destroyed by federal agents. What this means is the only people to actually deep examine any data that was on the flash drives are the same people that Reno Dave Burgess is saying set him up in the first place. Due to Dave's original attorney, Corky B. Dumbass Esquire, being so incompetent, due to the judge's new ruling and the Fed's actions on that ruling to destroy the only evidence that convicted Dave in the first place, nobody's ever going to know if the fix was in or if Dave did this. Now we'll never know. The second appeal comes. Dave appeals on the grounds that he didn't get adequate representation with Corky B. Not only did he not look into the evidence at all, obviously he didn't have anybody, any IT guy could have gone in there and looked at that stuff. I mean, you don't want to look at the photos, but you could go in and actually look at the code behind all of that to see where, when, who put all of this there. He never did that. Then he puts RC's mom on the stand, which opened a window for prosecutors to allow the RC photos into the trial against Dave, sinking him. And then to try to cover up his mistake, he puts RC's friend on the stand, who literally took claim to taking the photos that everybody is saying the feds put on there, not Dave. Now somebody, actual human being, is saying, no, wait, at least 9 of those photos I took while we were in Runamukka at the hotel room when it was just me and RC. That attorney, I don't know. Maybe the bar in Wyoming isn't that hard. Maybe they don't got as many laws, because this dude is a shout out to you, whoever you are, Corky B. Cold piece of work you are, man. Once again, Judge Johnson hears this appeal for a new trial. He keeps it short and sweet again. He says the files, records, and all submissions by all parties involved clearly show that the defendant is not entitled to the relief he seeks. Breaking down what he said, the judge basically just told Reno Dave, you had ample time and opportunity to bring this up before trial or during trial. You did not. Now is not the time for you to be asking for better representation. You should have done that before trial or during trial or any of that. And with that, sir, I say good day. Just because Dave's attorney blew trial doesn't mean that Dave should be entitled to a new trial. And this is just my law mind working, right? Having a terrible attorney happens all the time. You're supposed to say, hey, this is a terrible attorney. I need a better one. You need to let me at least try to get one, or give me a different attorney. If that doesn't work, spit at the dude in court. I mean, you're already facing 15 years. What's spitting at your lawyer in court going to get you another year? The judge ruled at every step of this case, besides turning down the evidentiary hearing, I believe. It feels like a cover-up to me, but besides that hearing, the judge ruled by the letter of the law. It's Dave's attorney just walked them off a cliff, and then just another cliff and another cliff blindly. But that doesn't mean you get a new trial. Dave's last-ditch appeal, he goes to the upper courts, the appellate courts in the federal system. He tries to appeal against the warrant. The warrant being for illicit street meds and evidence of the trafficking or selling of those illicit marching powders and such. And at no point does the warrant specify Jared from Subway type charges. So he, again, through the appeals court this time, on a motion that was already torn down pre-trial by the original judge, says it's well outside of the scope of what they were searching for. Now, this is when the government, the prosecutors, come in and they say, well, it doesn't matter because the automobile exception comes into play in this. A basic breakdown of the automobile exception, at least in 2008, is this. If you're walking on a sidewalk with a locked briefcase, you are guaranteed certain rights. One of those rights is, without a warrant specifying that they want to search that locked briefcase, they're not allowed to. If you are at home with that same locked briefcase, they raid your house. If they don't have a warrant specifying that they are allowed to go into that locked briefcase, it's outside the scope of the warrant. They're not allowed to open that briefcase. If you are in a car, in a passenger compartment with that same locked briefcase, you no longer enjoy, for some reason, the ability to have to specify the briefcase in the warrant if they get a search warrant for the car. It's called the automobile exemption. Don't carry your briefcase in a car. That's all I'm saying. Or flash drives. Now, none of that matters in this particular case, because as soon as the agent started to see a trend, i.e., 3 or 4 of the same type of scantily clad pictures, they shut it all down and got a new warrant for just that, specifying Jared from Subway type of charges. So it's not outside of the scope, and this is the truth, and I wish it wasn't, because I really dig the idea that they set him up, right? But you have to be on the cold hard fact of everything that went on, everybody who laid claim to taking this photo, that photo. I think maybe they superimposed the text on the photos to make them look worse or seem worse, but maybe not. Who knows? We'll never know. But the romanticizing that the feds set him up versus the cold hard truth of the cops and the judge moved in accordance with the law, at least on the outside, at least for the procedural parts of everything. The judge ruled well within the law on everything he ruled on, besides destroying, which he was obviously allowed within the law to do. It was just poor taste at the least. This man still has appeals. Why would you destroy the evidence that could clear his name, possibly? But other than that, I don't think that the judge was involved, at least in the beginning. I think he gave Dave a fair shot, and his lawyer shit the bed. I don't think that the cops planted the evidence so much as maybe they doctored the evidence, i.e. putting the text on it. I don't know. You don't know. None of us know. But I do know that the cops worked well within the law when they stopped what they were doing, shut it all down, went and got new warrants for new charges and new types of crimes when they saw new types of crimes. Now, the appellate court also stated something that was very interesting about it too. They said, imagine you have a search warrant for a house or an office and it has a filing cabinet. Now, the warrant's not just going to specify that you can only search files inside of that filing cabinet that say illicit street meds or customer list or, Blowapalooza 2022, any of that. You're going to look at all the files in the filing cabinet if you have a search warrant for the filing cabinet. And in a way, that makes sense too, right? If they have a warrant for the hard drive, they're going to search all the files in the hard drive. Now, if they come across something that shows new crime, the proper thing is to stop and get a new warrant, which is what they did. All remedy for Reno Dave Burgess exhausted itself. The Supreme Court refused to hear his case or review it. Dave had gone as far as he could with appeals, and now he was going to have to do the time, and there was no getting out of it. September 22nd, 2020. After serving more than 12 years of his 15-year sentence, Reno Dave Burgess was released from federal custody into high-intensity supervised parole for 10 years. And then he will enjoy being on the Jared from Subway registry with his new subscription for life. He was 68 when he walked out. He's 73 now. He lives somewhere in Southeast United States. That's all I'm going to say. You think he did it? Now, I've been told all kinds of theories from the people around Dave at the time. People who knew Dave, people that were in the Hells Angels. I've talked to dozens, and I do mean that by the actual literal meaning. Dozens of Hells Angels, current and former, that were around during this time. Some say that a European member was the owner of the flash drive. Most say that the cops set Dave up. I'll say this, not a single one of says Dave did it. Not one Hell's Angel I've spoken to thinks Dave did this. They all believe that Dave was set up. End of the day though, Dave has to wear that jacket now, forever. Nobody even said that Dave gave them those vibes. Everybody said that RC was known to have Dave's camera all the time, and she would run around taking pictures of everything. And RC's friend claimed that she took the photos. Now the other photos, I mean, we're talking about 9 photos of RC. What about the other, 47,020 photos? 21 or 71? Jesus. What about, who knows? Dave says that his flash drive came up missing and then it showed up like that. It could be. It could be that the flash drive had nothing on it. RC's friend took pictures she shouldn't have with the camera with the flash drive attached to it or something. And then, I don't know. I think half a decent lawyer would have gotten Dave off in this case. His lawyer had the IQ of a manhole cover. I'll tell you this, I'm not convinced he did it or he didn't do it. The one thing I'm sure on though, is they convicted him of it. You'll never get to hear him tell his story on my channel because they convicted him of it. And that sucks, but it is what it is. I have to stand on my own principles as a man, having a daughter, all of this. The conviction's there, and there's not enough solid evidence, especially with RC's friend getting on the stand and saying she took 9 of those pictures herself. That means the government didn't put him there, and that means the government did not set Dave up, because he did indeed possess the photos of RC. They were in his possession. It doesn't, knowing or not knowing, ignorance is not a defense. He possessed them. Thank you for coming to Vegas Profile Stories. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you next time.
Emotional damage.
The more you fuck around, the more you're gonna find out.
Son of a...
Anyway,
This is it.
this is it. So we talked about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, what's going on, dog?
What's up, brother? BA. Last time we were talking, we started to talk about Rob from Ventura.
And other places amongst the world.
Betty!
And I ain't never been no coward or needed people to fight my battles.
Like his stepdad does. He comes out with a cup of coffee, and you're just all out. You can't hear nothing. Put your waiter away!
Come to Chicago and meet me by the Museum of Science and Industry. I'll pick you up. We'll go get a fried steak sandwich, and then I'll show you my hogs, all right?
Damn, he said meet me at the Museum of Science and Industry. What the fuck? Hey, that's the best call out I've ever heard.